Welcome back, listeners, to the W Ritz podcast, episode 4. Today we have a very special show ready for you. Oh, really? Yes, we do. It is so special, in fact, that we got 2 extra people as guests on for the whole thing. It's so special that we are eliminating the third segment, and we're going to use the first and second segments to talk about pretty much the same thing. But you probably want to know who our guests are. You probably have at least heard of both of these people. So today in studio with us, we have Abigail Merwin.
Hello.
And over video call, we have Simion Fox.
Hello.
And let me tell you real quick, folks, I've been wanting to have these people on the podcast since we started.
Yeah, he's been telling me
I told
all
Will,
about them.
I told Will today that they are both deep thinkers and very good communicators. So let me just sum it up by saying we are going to have a banger of a podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Today.
I'm excited.
It should be fun. Real quick, though. What's that, Sim?
High expectations.
Yeah.
Oh.
high hopes for a living. Anyway, real quick, though, before we jump into our main topic of the day, which is really an interesting topic.
Very loaded.
It's a story. It's a political discussion. We're going to love it. We do have to mention, much to her sadness, that Abigail is the one who may have given us the idea to name our podcast the W Ritz podcast. The deal is, I was working with her one day, and we were all there was a bunch of kids, and we were all in some kind of place. I don't remember.
We were practicing the play The Odyssey for events at Rivendell.
And my memory is not clear on it, but all of a sudden I hear all this shouting, and it's like, Abigail did this, and it turns out that she misspoke when trying to say W Riz and instead said W Ritz, which is coincidentally the name of our podcast.
Yep.
Well, it's not a coincidence because we named it because she said it that way.
I'm using the word coincidentally, like
coincidentally. You're using it wrong.
Yes, exactly, for humor. But and then when we were planning on naming the podcast on our first episode, before we started recording, I was like, I have the perfect name, W Ritz.
It was literally like we did no preparation at all, and right before we started recording, Isaac was like, we should have a name for our podcast. And, like, we sat there in silence for, like, 10 seconds. And, like, Isaac was like, you know what? Let's just name it W Ritz.
Yes. And I will say it was not entirely Abigail's fault. There is this kid named Grant. Shout out to Grant. We love you, Grant.
Shout out to Grant. I saw his comment. I loved it.
Yeah. He posted a meme in a group chat that I was in that said W Ritz with a box of Ritz crackers on it.
Yeah, I've seen that
meme. And that image is permanently in my head now.
Yeah.
I will say that people have brought those images to me and been like, "Oh, look, Abby." I'm like,
oh. So what she's saying, it's not her fault she misspoke it. Like, they intentionally led her to misbelieve what the phrase was.
I mean, perhaps that is the case.
I will say I had never used it before that point, so I didn't know there wasn't a T in it. How was I supposed to know?
What you gonna do? Anyway, folks.
Good joke, though.
You live and learn.
But I'm glad that my moments of embarrassment could yield such good results.
It's not embarrassing.
It's your claim to fame.
Well,
claim to
funny.
fame.
In retrospect, it's funny.
Yeah, true.
In the moment, it was like, but, you know, it was good.
Anyway, folks, introducing today's topic. So, a while ago, this past week, I was looking through my phone, as I sometimes do, and I saw this advertisement for why we should ban this guy named Michael Knowles from speaking at UB.
Irony.
And I was like, wait, Michael Knowles is speaking at UB? What?
Whoa.
And I was like, oh, well, I guess I'm going to try and go to that, aren't I?
Funny how they tried to, like, get him to stop speaking, but their campaign to do that is the reason you knew about it in the first place.
I am a big fan of irony.
Me too.
That,
it was perfect. And so I'm like, you know, Dad, I want to go to this. And he was like, all right. And I was like, you know, actually, I want to invite my friends to this, too. And so just so happens that I was going to be seeing Abigail and Simion the very next day. And so I asked them if they want to come. They're both like, yes. Abigail didn't know who Michael Knowles was, but she does now. And Simion was super excited. He's like, I can see him live.
And you conveniently forgot to invite me,
well, the
Sir
thing
Isaac.
is, the story about that is I was going to invite Will, but by the time I was going to see him, which was Wednesday night, apparently ticket sales had closed or something like that.
See,
that was my understanding at the time.
What you could have done is as soon as you saw that, called me immediately and just said, Michael Knowles, UB, Thursday night. And that's all I would have needed to know. I would have like bought a ticket immediately.
Well, I am
like,
sorry.
I don't need any more context than that.
I am sorry for not doing that, William. I
It's
must
fine.
admit, entirely slipped my mind.
Well, hey, next time, right?
But
Yes,
the
next
reality
time.
is, Abigail and I didn't get to go to the thing anyway. We didn't actually get to see Knowles. Simion did, and there's more on that in a minute.
Yeah.
But we all decided to go to this, and I was pretty excited because Michael Knowles had just said that transgenderism must be eradicated like a week before this, and was in super big trouble with the left for it. And I was like, ha!
Yeah.
Perfect timing!
I did do a little bit of a deep dive before we went to the event, like just to see who he was, and because, like you said, I had no idea he existed. And I saw that, and like it was on all different news platforms.
Oh, yeah.
People were
Yeah.
blowing up about it, and people were so mad. And
Mhm.
they were saying, like he says, they were calling for a genocide, and I was like, literally.
No.
I looked up like the suffix ism and like what it means, and it like basically changes the word to mean something different.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I was like,
exactly.
See, that's
You-
what they do all the time. Is they'll like take something a conservative says and then make it seem worse than it actually is.
yeah.
Right, and we'll
Yeah.
get into more of this in the second
like,
segment
yeah,
because
Mi-
there is
yeah,
a
Mike-
lot to say about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. We'll wait
Yes.
until later.
Yeah.
But it is very true. That's what the left tends to do. So anyway, Simion, why don't you tell us how you managed to get in, and then I will tell why Abigail and I did not.
Okay, so when I was told about this, as soon as I got home, I got tickets for my mom. But when I was at school on the way home, I got tickets for myself. And so my mom and I both knew about it because of Isaac. And so we arrived at 5:30 because, well, the day prior he had just, well, a week prior or whatever, he said that we need to eradicate transgenderism. So we knew that there would be a lot of people.
Mhm.
And so we got there like 2 hours before it started. And that was great because the doors didn't open until like 8. And so we were freezing.
It
But
was
aside
so
from that-
cold. It was so cold.
we got 2 hours of the transgender, well, activists
The
yelling at
transgender
us
chants, yeah.
Mhm.
and singing songs about how we need trans rights and how they're being oppressed and all this stuff. And that was actually, it was very entertaining for one, and it was
I
like,
bet.
You can
it
literally,
was encouraging. I don't know why.
I'm sure you can
uh,
literally hear the smile on Simeon's face right now.
Oh, I
Emily.
can.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we were at like the front of the line, and so when the doors finally eventually did open, my mom and I got to go inside, and on our way up the stairs, actually, there were people that were close to the front of like the protest near the doors, and it was really funny because we couldn't hear what they were saying, but we could just see their mouths moving, and just really angry talk was coming out, and a lot of middle fingers. So that was great.
Awesome.
You think
And
they
so we
didn't
got
like you?
inside.
I think that's the kind of impression I'm getting from this
You
story.
know, I wasn't like 100% sure. I couldn't tell between, the FUs and
Yeah.
all
Yeah,
this, like you Nazi. Like,
Right.
I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I
They
don't
didn't
know.
make it
I'm sure that-
explicitly clear
I'm
to
sure
me.
that everyone
Yeah,
on
I
the
wish
left,
they were more straightforward and just
Right.
said that they hated you.
I'm sure
Right?
that everyone on the left is, I mean, it's hard to tell if they actually hate you because everyone on the left is very charitable, very tolerant.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well,
you know.
also, they were saying like FU fascists, and I don't know who they were talking to because I am not a fascist. So
Yeah, like,
they didn't
I
make
I
mean,
it
wonder what
clear.
fascist was there.
Hey, maybe,
Right?
maybe
Yeah,
you
like,
are,
I
according
didn't
to them.
You
Oh,
guys didn't see him.
Oh,
I'm
I'm
not
sorry.
either.
Maybe I'm not aware of my oppression
Of
or
your
my
whiteness?
viewpoints or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's for
Oh.
later.
We're
Another
being
great-
sarcastic, by the way, just
Yeah.
so you listeners know. One of you was going to take that all seriously, and
We're
I did
not
I did not want to
serious.
get an angry text.
Yeah.
Thank you
not
very
at all.
much.
Yeah, we're not actually liberals, in case you didn't know that already. But
And
anyway,
another great thing was that while my mom and I were outside, one of the chants was that trans lives matter and Black lives matter. And if you don't know, my mom and I are both Black, so like they were saying that we matter.
I bet you
Oh,
feel
oh,
supported,
what-
didn't you?
Oh,
Aw.
what people?
But
That's
all
so
the white people there
sweet.
do not matter, and all the Indians and Latinos, not.
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure like they have a special place in their heart for everybody not white. So
well, duh.
they
kinda
just
their
didn't
whole thing.
specify.
But anyway, so yeah, it was quite an experience getting there because Abigail and I carpooled to save gas and money and
Mhm.
whatever else. And we get there and we hear all this screaming. And I've never been to the place where, Knowles was actually speaking before. So I was like, oh, well, I guess I know where to go now, don't I?
Yeah.
Just follow the angry liberal
Why,
screams.
thanks, guys. What helpful people. They're showing you
Yes,
exactly where he was.
Exactly.
Well, their poster calling to ban Knowles told me that I should go there in the first
Yeah,
place,
they're
and now they're helping me find where I need to go.
Yeah,
Kind
you
of doing the opposite of what they intended.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But anyway, we walk over there, and sure enough, there were a bunch of angry leftists. And the thing is, the doors that go into the line that went into the actual building was right between two groups of leftists. Like there were angry people on the right and angry people on the left.
Like the Red
and
Sea.
line-
Yeah, really.
The line was down the middle. So that's how that went.
Yeah.
And we were standing in line for like 45 minutes, just hearing some lovely things getting said to us. Very
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. I saw
Um,
some really interesting signs. Yeah.
Me too.
I just thought of something. It literally was the Red Sea, because we're the red side and they're the blue side.
That's true.
Yo, he's
Oh,
right.
wow.
Whoa, Sam, getting deep already.
Nice.
Dang, I was not prepared.
But anyway, I think all three of us, Simion, Abigail, and I, all actually enjoyed getting yelled at by leftists.
Honestly, I loved it. It was so
Yeah, like-
exhilarating. I loved being part of that and
was
just
satisfying.
being
Yeah.
there. Yeah, it was so satisfying.
In my personal life, I found adversity oddly motivating.
in a way.
Yeah.
In a way,
yeah.
like when people like disagree with me or hate me,
Right.
it just motivates me to just be better than them.
Well, and the thing is that if you can really be so offensive that all you have to do to get, hundreds of people screaming mad at you is stand in a line.
Yeah.
I mean, you must be talented.
I
That's
was saying that
impressive.
to Isaac. Like, imagine being Michael Knowles and how satisfying it would be to have so many people like so mad about something you said.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
can you
Yeah.
imagine the satisfaction out of that?
It would be pretty great, but I think we got a taste of it anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
It was also sort of nice to be like part of a group,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if it was just me and they were just screaming at me alone, I would be so scared.
Oh
the
yeah.
thing is,
But-
there were a bunch of other conservatives there,
Mm-hmm.
and Simion and I, we're a friend group, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
who cares what the outside world thinks?
Yeah,
We're here
sure.
on a podcast.
You
right
got
now.
people who care about you, and
talking
that's all
about
that
what
matters.
Yeah.
But I loved. I don't know. There's something so refreshing about being screamed at. It was beautiful.
I mean,
It was very colorful too. Like
yeah.
their language was colorful in a boring way. They could have used better language, but their
They weren't
signs were interesting. Their clothing
Ooh.
was very colorful. Rainbows all the way. It was very interesting.
And there was even a drag queen.
I know there was a drag queen, and my biggest regret is that, well, one of them, I mean, I'm sad I didn't get in, but I didn't get a selfie with the drag queen. And now I'm like, I have it in my mental notebook. Like, okay, next woke protest
Next-
you go
yes.
to, there's
Next
probably going to be a
Michael
drag
Knowles
queen.
speech.
Yeah. So you can get a selfie then. But so I was
Like,
so
the
disappointed.
question is, how would you address them? Like, how would you ask
right?
them?
Yeah,
Like-
I
Yeah.
was thinking about that. I was like, do I want to stir the pot? Would I say, "Excuse me, sir," or would I say, "Excuse me, ma'am," which could also be
But
just.
how do you know they
as-
want to be a man? How do you know
Right.
they're just not a man who
Yeah,
just wants to
exactly.
like dress
Who
feminine?
just wants to make
But-
fun of women.
So I could have
Yeah.
just addressed them
Excuse me, ma'am.
as, "Excuse me, person with the really cheap and fluffy wig. Can I please get a selfie?"
Excuse me,
But-
non-gender conforming
can-
being.
Yes.
Hey, can you stop calling me a Nazi for a minute so I can get a selfie with
Yeah,
you?
exactly.
Thanks, that'd be great.
Wouldn't that be
but-
fun? Yeah.
I would probably just say, "Excuse me, can I please get a selfie?" But yeah, that is the one regret I do have, is that I didn't get a selfie with the
Yeah.
drag queen. Because how cool would that be? What
You know
did
what
you do
actually-
this weekend?
What you saying, Sim?
I was gonna say, it's very ironic how my mom and I, where we sat down, we were right next to two people that were trans activists, and as soon as the show started, they started yelling, "Trans lives matter! Trans lives matter!" and other obscenities about
Trans lives
fascists. And so we were right next to them. So we got the full experience while we were
I
there.
Oh,
saw
dang.
you in the video. I saw you and your mom
You
having.
did?
Yeah.
I was looking for you guys, and when they were showing the people who were screaming, I was like, "Oh, look, there's."
Simion, by
I
the
should,
way,
I should go
Renee.
back and watch that part.
we should
I gotta
mention,
see 'em.
folks,
Yeah, you
this
should.
whole thing is available on YouTube for you to
Oh,
watch
yeah.
the whole speech.
Yes.
You should.
Actually-
You all should
Google
go
Michael
watch
Knowles,
it. It's
just-
a really good speech.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is really good. My dad tried to cast it to our TV, and it wasn't working. Like, they were playing, like, the music over it, and it was weird. Like, the video was fine, but, like, music was playing over what he was saying. Like, I know in the beginning they introed him with music, but, like, when over the whole thing, there was, like, music blaring so that you couldn't hear him.
Oh, that's weird.
That is weird.
Sounds like somebody's tampering with your TV to keep
Yeah.
you from watching a conservative.
I know. But yeah, but yeah, his speech was really good. I ended up listening to it the other night.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a very well-spoken person. Anyway, the thing is, the left was so happy. The protesters there were so happy when the building filled up. And in the end, that's why Abigail and I couldn't get in. Because I got there and, we were this close to getting in. And then, long story short, we tried to get in together and it didn't work because, we wanted to remain, somewhat close to each other because we carpooled. It's not like you can just, walk home. But long story short, we tried working out our tickets. There was a difficulty, and by the time we fixed it, the room was full. So
wait, how did the room fill up if there was a certain number of tickets?
No, the tickets were free. So, like, they said a ticket doesn't mean you get a seat.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but then I think they did put it in a smaller building because people were already upset about it, so they wanted to, like, crowd control.
Gotcha. Okay.
But then when we were walking away, this dude who was in the protest was like, "What, is the building at capacity?" And I was like, "Yes, sir. Yes, it is." And I should have said, because there were literally hundreds of people still in line, I should have said, "Yeah, the building's full. And do you see all these people? Do you see all these
They
people?
still want to see.
They still want to be there." So
Like, why was he making fun of you for?
I don't know what
something
that's
why is he
that
happy
he's
that the
like-
building is full?
Yeah, I don't know what
Shouldn't
that.
he be mad about that?
Right?
Exactly.
Like, oh, the building's full. People came. Oh,
People like this.
they're actually supporting your cause. Yes, sir. They are. They are. Does that make you feel affirmed and good about yourself? No. So shut up.
I think the room, even though they had they cut the room in half because there were curtains that they could have removed
Oh, that's
and
weird.
had
really?
a full second row that would have doubled the people in there, and they didn't do that. So
That's really annoying. That's weird.
That seems kind of like they're trying to stop you from seeing a conservative.
No
Oh my
way.
God.
Isaac, really?
That'd be crazy if they did that, wouldn't it?
Oh my goodness.
I don't know. I mean, UB is a liberal school, right?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Very,
So-
very
I know the
liberal,
board was like trying to shut it down and stuff, but they were saying the group Young Americans, right?
Young
Yeah.
Americans Foundation.
Yeah.
That they were protected by the First Amendment, so they couldn't do anything about
Right,
it.
Exactly.
But I said to my parents, I was like, "Oh, we could have gotten in. They had to remove those people. There were seats available."
yeah. The thing about the protesters too is, it seemed more like a block party than anything else. Didn't it?
Yeah. There
Like
was
they-
music,
yeah.
there was dancing. It was a lively event, to be sure.
I mean, if I were a liberal, I would probably go there just to have fun, because there's
Right?
no way I would actually feel threatened by a bunch of conservatives
Yeah.
just trying to go see
Yeah.
a speaker.
And I think some people were just there for fun.
I
Yeah.
think so. I think maybe.
I felt bad
yeah.
for the people there that were there for like 3 hours standing outside in like fishnets and stuff. Those,
Yeah, it was.
those are, yeah.
It gets cold here.
Yeah.
One thing that was nice, though, I think he was probably, I don't know, he had some sort of LGBTQ plus affiliation, but he was walking around handing out hats and mitts and stuff, and I was like, I appreciate that.
I mean, that was nice. I just don't think he would have done it to anyone who disagrees with him. Wouldn't have given them a.
Well, no, he was going through the line and stuff.
Really?
I think
yeah.
I think he
I
ignored.
think-
I think he ignored people, but it's just because there were
I
leftist
don't know.
protesters so close to the line. probably.
Yeah. Well, I
Who knows?
also, the protesters at one point were shouting, "This is democracy," and I was like, "Yeah, it is. Good on you. I
Yeah.
would shout with you, but that would show I support you." But
I
Yeah.
mean, you're
Yeah, you're
right,
right.
but like I don't want to agree with you, but you're right.
yes, and
Yeah,
I was like,
exactly.
it's also democracy that we can be here,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
you don't have to tell us
Freedom of
to
assembly.
go away. But yeah,
You can do
exactly.
whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
But I was like, that is one thing we do agree on, that this is democracy, and good on ya.
Yeah.
Good
I
job.
mean, I think that we agree with the left on a lot of things as soon as but only until you go past the initial sentence. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like once you boil it down, you agree with certain things, but
right, like Black Lives Matter. Well, yes, they do.
But
Yeah.
that
well,
doesn't
but
mean
the
that
movement
is valid.
itself, yeah.
yeah, I
That
don't agree
doesn't
with
mean that
movement.
everything
there's
you say
nothing-
about
like,
America
if you-
being
the
racist
phrase
is
Black
okay.
Lives Matter is obviously not a bad thing, but like the movement it's associated with is pure evil.
Right, and the
Yes.
whole calling America racist thing.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's messed up.
Yeah.
But they seem to think that we're offensive when they were the ones throwing F-bombs at us, calling us Nazis. bro, there were Jews in the crowd, and they were still
Literally,
Nazis.
there were literally Jews
the
next
irony
to us.
of
There were
that.
literally Jews next to us who were speaking Hebrew, and
Jewish.
was like, yeah.
Y'all are still Nazis.
Excuse me. Do you know what a Nazi is? I just just tell me what a Nazi is.
Yeah.
I'd like to know.
Yeah, the whole thing was kind of messed up, but it was also kind of fun in a weird way.
It was.
But anyway, folks, we will be back in just a short amount of time with the second segment where we really boil down what Knowles actually said and why the left is so offended by it.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have some great discussion on that, so we hope that you will keep listening.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to our special edition of the W Ritz podcast. And here in our second segment, we're going to be dissecting the speech by Michael Knowles. Yes.
That's right. Knowles said some interesting things, but let's start off with what he said in response to apparently, the left has been calling him transphobic. They've been calling him genocidal because he said that transgenderism needs to be eradicated. So Abigail, if you would read what he actually said, we can respond to it.
Yeah, so Michael Knowles said concerning transgenderism, and if it is false, then we should not indulge it, especially since that indulgence requires taking away the rights and customs of so many people. If it is false, then, for the good of society, and especially for the good of the poor people who have fallen prey to this confusion, transgenderism must be eradicated from public life entirely, the whole preposterous ideology at every level.
Right, and I like the way you read the word ideology, because he was very clear that he's not saying that transgender people need to be sent to gulags or whatever. He said transgenderism must be eradicated from public
life. The idea that a man can be a woman or a woman can be a man. That's what he wants eradicated. Not the people who believe that.
And call me genocidal for saying this, but I have to agree. I have to say that I think he's absolutely right.
Well, he made the clarification and the comparison that when you say we need to get rid of poverty, you're not saying we need to kill off all the poor people. Or when you're saying we need to eradicate cancer, you're not saying the people who suffer with cancer. He's saying the cancerous mass. Like the cancer,
exactly, yeah.
The condition, not the people.
Fix the problem?
Well,
I mean, it depends on which one you're talking about. Like eradicating one cancer cell is not going to fix cancer as a worldwide problem.
Yeah, he's saying you need a cure. Saying you need to eradicate cancer is saying you need a cure for cancer.
Yeah.
Yes.
You need a cure for transgenderism, which I think would be a more healthy, society in regards to family and how family is set up.
Yep.
Ultimately, the Word of God, and there's no substitute for belief in Jesus. But
yep.
Well, actually, when he was taking questions at the end of the video, this one person asked, "How can I help my friends who do go and sleep around and who go and take part in immoral actions?" And he said, well, clarify with them that there are two wills. There is the will of the flesh. He didn't say flesh exactly. He eventually got to there.
Right?
Yeah.
But he said the will of the flesh, and then the will that knows what needs to be done.
Yeah.
He gave the example of a cookie. Yes, the flesh wants to eat the cookie because it's so good. But then the other side is like, well, I could get fat. For me, it's I could get a breakout, or like the suit isn't going to fit me, is what he said. Yeah. So he made the comparison of the two wills, and I think that's very important. And self-control is something that our society lacks.
It's the fruit of the spirit, and it's very necessary.
And he said that after the sexual revolution, the only thing that mattered was if it feels good, do it. And that basically defines our culture right now.
Exactly. And, I think that he said pretty much, I don't think that you can say that he's genocidal after he said this. He says, I clearly expressed a concern for the good of these sexually confused people. I mean, he wants the good of them. He doesn't want to kill them.
Yeah.
How would that help anything?
Yeah, like when he's doing those reacting to liberal TikTok videos, he's not saying, burn it with fire, kill it, bruh. He's saying, what a confused and sad person to believe
Kill it is just what the Dems say about abortion, right?
Yeah. He has sympathy for them because he understands that they are confused. They are mentally unstable to a point, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what he calls it.
And he probably has more sympathy for them than other conservatives, because he at one point was a raging, God-hating atheist liberal.
Yeah.
So, like, he knows what it's like to be on that side.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
But
you know.
you see, for just saying and pointing out that something is very obviously wrong with society, he's been crucified by the left. I mean, they hate him. And
Yeah.
this guy, Jamal Bowman, some elected representative here in New York, he called Knowles a Nazi, hell-bent on keeping white men alive and in power.
Just like them to just bring race into
what?
this.
Yeah, if that is ever like if that isn't strawman, I don't know what is.
Exactly.
Like,
Facts.
that
Yeah.
was ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know what's ironic about that?
What?
At one point in the at the end when they were asking questions, a black guy came up and asked him about how he can inform the black people about how the government sort of ruins the black family.
Yeah.
And so he told him what he could do and brought up that woman, Phyllis Schlafly or something. And yeah, so I wouldn't say he's racist.
And
Yeah.
you know, the thing is, Simion, I think that, and you know, I don't think that it's unreasonable to say this at this point. I would say that the left is far more genocidal than the right is nowadays. Like a while ago, you know, people could have their political disagreements. They could still go to a barbecue on Friday night. Well, now the left is going to say, "What? You're barbecuing meat? That's bad for the climate." Oh my gosh. And the thing is, Jane Fonda actually said recently, this week, she was on The View, which if you've ever watched The View, you probably just wish that the Lord would end the earth right now. But Whoopi Goldberg, I think it was, said, well, what's your plan for dealing with pro-lifers who do not conform to the idea that a woman should be in control of her body?
Oh my gosh.
And Jane Fonda said, murder. She literally just said murder.
Wow.
I think I saw something about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw it the other day. I was like, bingo, we're talking about this.
Yeah.
So Jane Fonda is literally allowed to say that you and me, all of us here who are pro-life and want babies to not die anymore.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to
should
talk
be
about genocide, the amount of abortions that have been done exceeds the amount of people killed in the Holocaust.
Yeah.
That's a statistical
And
fact.
the thing is, you know, if we are to believe what the left says about abortion, that it's not actually murder of babies, if we were to believe that, well, now we kind of have to believe that abortion is murder, or is at least calling for murder, right?
Yeah.
And I think that Michael Knowles said that you can't have like two things that are similar, right? But ban one.
Yes.
Right. And he
Yeah,
said that
exactly.
society has to have boundaries, otherwise they're going to crumble. Like you have to have
Right.
truths,
Yeah,
or
even
you're
the
going to
freest society has
crumble.
to have
You have
boundaries.
to have things you agree on, or you're going to crumble.
Right.
And so I think that we need to agree what murder is.
Yeah.
Which is taking a life, which is abortion.
Mhm.
Well, just a clump of cells, so it should be okay, right?
Well.
Nah.
But anyway, the topic of Knowles' speech was actually feminism. You might think that it was
Mhm.
transgenderism, which it ties in very closely to transgenderism, but up till now he's just been clarifying what he said.
Well, I mean, when you have
or
a bunch
defending,
of
rather, what he
like
said.
hundreds of liberals outside screaming "Trans lives matter," you gotta address that in some way.
well,
right?
you know, that might be a good idea.
Yeah.
But he was actually talking about feminism. The topic was, you know, how feminism has made women miserable and ruined everything else and led to transgenderism and all
Mhm.
that.
Yep.
But one thing that someone in the place said that he did not do is actually define feminism. So
Which
for the
he's wrong.
purposes-
Actually,
he
he
is
did.
wrong.
He did actually define it at the beginning.
For the purposes of this podcast, let's define the feminism that we're speaking against, because we're not speaking against the feminism that brought us, you know, a more equal society where women can have jobs
'Cause, like,
and be independent
You know,
and
you all
vote
know
and all
that
that.
there was multiple waves of
Right.
feminism.
Yeah.
I think we're on like the third wave
I don't know.
feminism
I
now.
think it's fourth wave,
third
technically.
or fourth, but the only
Um,
one that was relatively good was first wave feminism.
Well, the first wave feminism definition was the advocacy for women's rights on the basis of the equality of the sexes.
Okay.
So I would like to clarify that I believe in feminism of that definition.
Right. And that's not to say
Yes.
That's not to agree with the modern
Okay,
feminist
I don't-
No.
premise that men and women are the same.
Even though,
I
like,
support that definition and nothing else.
even though I do
related to
support
feminism.
that definition too, I still don't like calling myself a feminist to any degree just because
No,
Well, yeah.
of the
because
modern association.
yeah, the term. is
I say
associated
I
with it.
believe that men and women are equal of moral value under God,
Yes.
not equal in ability because God created men and women to do different things
Mhm.
and have different roles.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
That's
So,
what I say
yeah.
when somebody asks me what I believe, and they still call me sexist anyway. So,
Well,
but, what are you gonna be?
you
able
know
to
what? We have a woman right here, and she's agreeing with what you said. So
Yep.
do? Yeah, exactly.
I think you're all right. But yeah, that's for the purposes of this podcast. We are talking about feminism that has brought the destructive ideology that men can become women, women can become men. It's no longer about helping women to be independent individuals. It's no longer about helping them to have freedom. It's at this point I would say it's actually about oppressing women.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, making it so that advocating for men being able to use women's restrooms, that's not female empowerment at all.
No,
female
that's
destruction.
hurting them. Like
I
they
saw.
when you can't even feel safe going to the bathroom, like that's when you know society is messed up.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I saw a quote by Mark Manson that said the modern movement of feminism is attacking like institutions and like mindsets, or is attacking mindsets, not institutions. Sorry.
Yeah.
That the feminism is going after social constructs and prejudices that people don't even know exist in their brains.
Mhm.
They're saying you believe this because you're a white male, right?
Right.
Well,
And so he said that feminism is going after mindsets, I'm paraphrasing, not institutions.
Yeah.
gotcha.
And Knowles actually said, speaking of what you said about realizing that you're oppressed, he was talking about a woman who said that she basically realized she was oppressed as soon as she started becoming a feminist and attending feminist meetings. Like, she was happy and she had a great life, and then all of a sudden she realized, oh crap, I'm
Yeah.
oppressed. Aw,
Yeah.
dang.
Aw, darn.
But he also quoted someone who called, I don't remember who it was, I'm sorry, but he quoted someone who called modern feminism a socialist anti-family political movement that encourages women to
Mhm.
leave their husbands, kill their children, practice witchcraft, destroy capitalism, and become lesbians.
Truer words have not been spoken about modern
how
feminism.
in the world is that at all helpful to women?
I love that description. I thought it was hilarious and very creative.
Yeah, exactly.
And
It's
true.
I mean, hey, he
Yeah.
said Michael Knowles himself said it's a little harsh, but when you try and find
No,
something wrong with it,
it's
you
true,
can't.
Right?
though.
Yeah.
It's
Harsh
it's
but true.
absolutely
It
true.
stands true. Yep.
Yeah, so modern day feminism is just messed up. Absolutely messed up. Let's see, what else can we talk about here in regards to modern day feminism?
Well, that women think that they're oppressed, and, well, I guess maybe they are to some degree, and now they're more oppressed
Well,
because of feminism.
What degree is
But-
that?
There's always
Maybe
been some
it's
level
more like self-inflicted.
yeah.
Like
You-
Yeah.
What
they're
you
not
believe-
legally oppressed in any way.
No.
There's no like laws that like limit the rights of women
Yeah,
at all.
I think
Not
that
in modern America.
legally
no.
fix that. And I was telling Abigail the other day, I said, well, the left loves to pretend the issues that were issues back in history are still issues today. They
Yeah.
love to pretend that, racism is still a big problem. They love to
Mhm.
pretend that sexism is still a big problem. They love to pretend that Nazis still exist because Republicans still exist.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just not true. There are new issues that we need to focus on.
Yeah.
The new issues, I would say the tables have turned so much that now there's blatant racism against white people,
Yep.
Mhm.
blatant sexism against males, and blatant oppression of women under the guise of trans rights.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
And I think that there are some factors of racism that still, like, towards people of darker color that still do exist, but it
Not-
is
Well, certainly,
true.
yes.
Not on a
Well,
systemic level. I
No,
don't think.
like
No,
there
not
are
on a
still
legal-
some
you're always
things-
gonna find that weird racist guy.
Your
well,
racist
yes,
uncle.
Like,
and
there's-
like there
But
are
like you
still
can't change every individual's state
well,
of mind.
yeah, and I get that, but from things I've read, people I've talked to, there are some underlying aspects, but I think that I feel like the modern mindset is that we, like me as a white person, needs to pay for my ancestors' issues and decisions and mistakes. And dude, I don't even know if my families were slaveholders. Like,
Yeah.
I'm pretty
I'm
sure
not
mine weren't.
sure.
Like,
I
I have
don't-
ancestors who moved here from Poland and Italy, so
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, maybe they were slave owners, just
Uh.
not of black people. Because that's another thing is that, the liberals like to pretend that like slavery was exclusively like white on black in America, but slavery has existed everywhere in every culture.
Exactly.
And it's always been different races either enslaving the same race or another race. There have been black people who owned white slaves, white people who owned white slaves, black people who owned black slaves.
Yeah.
Even
literally African tribes were selling each other to the slave ships.
Yeah, the slave trade. Yeah. They were the ones who sold them to begin with.
Right.
And isn't it Kamala Harris's like ancestors, weren't they like black slave owners?
That would be ironic.
I'm pretty sure I heard that somewhere. I'm pretty sure that's true.
Okay, well then.
But
that changes things a little.
Racism towards white people is becoming a problem.
Yeah.
Because there have been times, I guess, sort of, when I've been like, oh no, like, I'm white. Oh no.
Yeah.
I'm terrible.
No.
They're going to choose a black candidate over me at work.
But then I like think through it and I'm like, literally no.
Yeah. Well, the thing about America is we've done everything we can from a legal perspective to change the wrongs that we once did.
Yeah.
You can't do anything else. The only thing you can do now is start offering reparations, which is in itself racist against white people.
Yes, exactly. And that's what I mean of racism. Like, there's, like, yes, every legal thing has been taken. There's no racism there. And we can't change mindsets. But I think that people still do hold whatever prejudices, and it's stupid and ill-informed and illogical. And they don't need to be sent to concentration camps, though.
Yeah. No one should be advocating for that.
Yes. But one thing with the feminism is that it advocated for transgenderism.
Yes.
And I think that is such a conflict.
Exactly.
Because they're fighting for women's rights, and then they turn around and they're inviting men into their bathrooms, into their changing rooms.
And Knowles was saying, like, well, the thing that modern feminism says is that men and women are exactly the same. They have, society should treat them absolutely no differently. And I agree that legally they should be treated as, I don't think that there should be any form of sexism in our laws, obviously.
Of course.
But the thing is, if what they're saying about
like
men and women being
what they're
the
saying, exact same in every way except for like genital differences.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And Michael Knowles said same-sex marriage says men and women are basically the same.
Right. But if they say that, then why is transgenderism necessary?
Exactly.
Yes.
So like if you believe you are a girl trapped in a man's body, like how do you know that if they're the exact same?
Yeah.
You have to realize that there's some kind of difference between I'm going to say it, between the two genders if you're going to advocate for transgenderism.
Yeah.
So modern feminism actually contradicts itself.
Yeah. And I think that's a sad thing, that there's people think that both genders are the same, because that's not true. Like, from a Christian viewpoint, from a biblical viewpoint, like, there are things that you can do that I can't. Like, you can build muscle mass way faster than I can because of testosterone. Is that annoying? Yes, a little bit. But I really don't care. But you can't bring forth life in your body, can you?
We can't.
Maybe
No.
we can.
No, we
they
can't.
say we can.
The emojis are wrong. We can't.
They say
not naturally.
But I'm not too sure about that.
Emojis, the thing
you-
with which we measure our society.
Yes. Have you
Oh.
seen
They're
those
false?
pregnant man emojis?
Yeah,
They're so
they're
disturbing.
disgusting.
Yeah.
We're in trouble.
But I think that there are many things that men can do that women can't or shouldn't do, and that women can do that men can't or shouldn't do.
Right. And if men and women are exactly the same, you kind of lose out on not even so much the physical aspects, but the other aspects. Like, women are more, generally speaking, they're more emotionally aware than men.
Yes.
And if everybody is the same, well, that means that, I don't know about you. I'm going to say it. I'm not gay, so I don't want everybody to be just like another man. Like, I like having women in the world. I know people joke about not wanting women in the world, but I kind of like having women in the world.
Me too.
Just going to say it. So, yeah,
I
you
like
need
having
to
women in the world.
I would assume you would.
That could be taken wrong. That could be taken wrong. I do not mean it in the way that could be taken wrong. And
anyone who took that wrong has got to be an idiot.
Hey, I mean, I like having men in the world too. I like having people.
I like having men in the world too.
I like having people in the world. It's nice.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Literally.
At the end of the day, we're all God's creation.
Yes.
That's
And
all.
none of us would be in existence without one or the other,
Exactly,
male or
yeah.
female.
Yeah.
Because it's a two-way thing.
Right.
You
You need
need
both.
Yeah.
Yeah. You need both to create life.
Yep.
You don't say.
And
It's
no
crazy.
matter what they say about bone marrow, like being able for like the bone marrow in women being able to
Yeah.
impregnate themselves, that's
That's dumb.
And
That's
that's
so
not natural either. And that
People
also.
say that.
Yes.
yeah. Apparently, there's like some study that says that women can impregnate themselves with like
A bone marrow.
their own
I
bone
think I saw
marrow?
something that said that that's completely false.
yeah. I've heard it
I
was
think it was
false
just
too.
some girl on
I think
TikTok,
yeah, I think it was
but-
like a scientific theory that has been disproven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Bad.
Yeah.
so
but
ridiculous.
it also like breaks the family
Mm.
dynamic.
right.
Like, oh, you don't need a man to get pregnant, which technically you don't with all the like but
Well, I mean, you don't need
Well-
a man directly involved in your
yes,
life.
you don't need a man directly involved
Yeah,
in your
that-
life.
yeah,
And
Because you
that's what
still
I
need
mean.
like a male to get the DNA
Yeah.
necessary.
exactly.
But you don't need
to
a
get
man
pregnant.
directly involved in your life. And I think that is so sad
Yeah.
because it totally destroys the dynamic of family.
Right. And
Which then leads to like emotional problems, which then leads to people being
Yeah,
trans.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like
yeah.
not to be a slippery slope, but
like-
It's a meme on the internet. Like when somebody's acting ridiculous, you say, "Oh, fatherless behavior."
Yeah, I know,
but like
right?
that's rooted in truth because like people without fathers do live worse lives. Like
Yeah.
most people who commit crimes and are arrested, they don't have father figures.
yeah.
So why are we celebrating women having to raise children on their own?
Mm-hmm.
That's not a
Yeah.
good thing.
And we need to support women who have to. But
Yeah,
that
like,
doesn't
absolutely.
mean
I'm not saying like
that doesn't mean
Absolutely.
we promote it. And I'm just saying because I know you. I
it's
know
a
you
bad
guys
situation
agree.
to be in.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
to have to raise a child by yourself.
Right.
Like I'm not like that shouldn't happen, but I'm not
Yes.
saying
And I do think that the Church of Christ has some huge opportunity there to start mending
Yeah.
a lot of the
Absolutely.
cultural
Facts.
problems.
Absolutely.
you know?
I just saw Jesus Revolution yesterday. Brilliant movie. Go see it if you were thinking about it.
Agreed.
And it was a generation of people who were lost, just like our
Mhm.
generation. They were turning to drugs, to sex, to alcohol, to all these different things. And it was beautiful to see cinema capture this movement of Jesus
Mhm.
reaching out and bringing those people in. But it was through the church.
yeah.
It was started
Yeah.
by a church opening their doors and saying, I don't care where you've been. I don't care of whatever. We're inviting you in. We're loving on you so that you can be transformed. You don't have to be transformed to come to church. You come to church to be transformed by the love
exactly.
of
And the
God.
thing is, people today like to think that politics will solve everything. You know, you get your president and you make some laws, you try
Yeah.
and force your values on the other.
Yeah, they do tend to idolize
the
politicians.
reality
is
like the
that-
next, like the person who's gonna save our country.
The reality is that mankind is like, you know, we're
Mhm.
born evil.
Yeah,
And apart from the Holy Spirit, you can't make anybody believe your own views. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, in a sense, God is the only person who can force good values on anyone.
exactly.
So,
Force,
I mean,
maybe the
I
wrong
guess-
word, but I get what you're saying.
well, I
Yeah,
use
it
the
is-
wrong word a lot, apparently.
yeah.
So.
This is a strong word to
I
use,
get what
but
you're saying. Yeah.
I'm just using the left's rhetoric, like you're forcing. our
yeah,
Yes.
values.
well, yeah.
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 God's the only one who can change your heart
Exactly.
for you.
And
Exactly.
I think part of the disintegration of God in our society is Michael Knowles was talking about the Constitution and how he was joking, I think, that James Madison had penned in invisible ink.
We got
that
invisible ink
suddenly-
at the 1 cent store
Yes.
back then. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
suddenly, all of a sudden, it is legal to like have all these sexual sins,
Well, you
like
know,
commit adultery.
Yeah.
and-
I actually read that as soon as you put on some leftist glasses, the Second Amendment vanishes, and then there
Whoa.
are 3 additional
Oh.
rights: the rights to be trans, the rights to be gay, and the rights to kill your enemies.
Whoa.
So-
Whoa.
That
Yeah.
is
I-
magical.
Where
Wow.
do I
Right?
get these glasses?
Yeah.
I need to see this for myself. What?
That is like national treasure level.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
whoa.
If they make a national treasure remake, that's what they're gonna do.
Yeah, exactly. Let's touch on another thing that Knowles said here in this special edition of the W Ritz podcast.
Okay.
It's not directly related to feminism. I mean, everything he said was to a certain point, but it's not directly on feminism. He said, personal problems are political problems. And this is what I'm taking from that is that mental health is so important to people because there are political answers to it. Like, you hear all this talk about mental health. Let's make sure that everybody's mental health is great. You can't ever be depressed. If you're depressed, that means that you're not being yourself and you should transition to something else. There's a reason for that.
And yet depression is idolized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be depressed so you can go trans. But the thing is, that's not legitimate. Like, the reason why the left especially, I feel like the left is more focused on mental health than the right, even though Knowles said, even though they're preaching mental illness, the reason why they're so concerned with mental health is because there are political answers to personal problems. Like, if I were to say, well, I'm depressed, I feel more like a woman today, maybe if I become a woman, my depression will be cured. Well, that will turn into, should I be able to use the women's restroom? Should I be able to use this, that? Should I be able to compete in women's sports? And I'm not saying that we should have no concern for anyone's mental health. I think that...
But, like, that's the wrong way to go about it.
Yeah.
Like, you don't fix someone's mental health by affirming the problem.
Right.
You have to help them get through it, get out of it. Because, a phobia is an irrational fear of something. Like, if I'm an arachnophobe, afraid of spiders, you don't fix it by saying, oh, it's okay that you're afraid of spiders. It's no problem. You fix it by helping me get over my irrational fear of spiders.
Yes.
So you can be a better person and live as a better person.
Exactly.
And
so
have
when
one less thing that's not holding you back.
So when my future wife finds a spider in the house and she's afraid, I can go and body that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you can walk her through of getting over
getting over her arachnophobia.
And
Perfect.
In the end, it is kind of sad how, they think that that the only way to solve any of your mental problems, the only way to solve your depression is to change your gender. Like, be yourself, but if you feel like you're not yourself, then you should change pretty much your entire being.
Yeah, which
like,
is... Sorry, go ahead.
Where did tomboys and tom girls go? Or whatever it's called. Because, those used to be prevalent in society. And now it's just, you feel different than all the other girls. Well, then just become a guy.
The thing is, when you're growing up, you're still figuring out things. Like, you're gonna go through phases like that.
And that's the thing with kids being like, "Oh, I'm a cat." Like, I used to think I was a unicorn, okay, for 5 minutes, and then mom called time for lunch, and I was like, "Oh, I'm human, so I can go eat my mac and cheese," right? So. It's so sad to see people twisting imagination. Because imagination is a God-given gift.
Yeah, kids are naturally imaginative. They like pretending to be things that they're not.
Right.
Because it captures their attention. It captures their interest.
It is true that there are going to be, more feminine men and more masculine women, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
What's wrong is when you try and not only become someone of the other gender, but drag all of society down with you.
Exactly,
So,
Well, and I think that's the sad thing of people trying to find their identity and changing their identity, finding their hope in being a different gender, because that is a total counterfeit, a total false idea of, because when we come into Christ, right, we come into a new identity under Christ.
Yes.
And so it's a total counterfeit for that. And
and in the end,
because the devil can't come up with anything. Like, he has no power, so he's just like, I'm going to use what God has and twist it and make it evil so that people...
That's facts.
Yeah, and he often copyrights it and makes people think like, I came up with this. He literally didn't. He has no imagination. He can create nothing.
Right.
So it's so sad, because what people really need is to step into their identity in Christ and become who God created them to be. Just like Saul. He didn't think he was gay. He literally ran away from it. A prophet had to call that out of him and steward that in him. And that's what the church needs to be. They need to call out their real identity and call out, this is who you are, and God loves you, and he created you to be this.
In Christ.
And not shut them out and throw them onto the streets and say, you terrible person, you're probably oppressed by demons.
You're so sinful, get out of here.
Yeah, like that's not what Jesus did. And I can't say this in front of woke people, because they'll be like, are you calling me the scourge of the earth? But Jesus sat down with the lowest of the low.
He did,
He did not excuse their sin, but he did not leave them wallowing in it.
Yes.
He wasn't like, oh, it's okay that you're gay. It's fine, bro. I still love you.
He didn't, with Matthew, who was the tax collector, right?
Yeah.
That was one of the greatest sins in the Jewish community. He didn't condemn him.
No.
He loved him and stewarded Matthew's gifts, Matthew's person into who he saw him to be. He didn't sit down with him and be like, yes, good on ya. Betray your family and your culture.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good on
it's okay.
you.
Just keep doing what you're doing.
Collaborate with
He
the
didn't
enemy.
affirm that.
Yeah,
but
no.
he like didn't like shout at him or
He
condemn him
didn't
publicly.
destroy him.
Yeah.
He didn't say, you're going to hell because of this.
Yeah.
He didn't shut him out. He said, I love you, Matthew, and this is who you are, and this is who you're called to be.
Mm-hmm.
And through that, Matthew transformed to be a disciple and to go to the ends of the earth and give God's love to those around him, which is our calling. That's what we're supposed to do.
You know, the sad thing is that the modern church in America, in general, not just the churches that we go to, the church in America in general is doing less and less of that. Like, I heard recently that there's this church near where I live. It's a Methodist church, and I don't know the outcome of this vote, but they were going to vote on whether or not to stay in the vaster Methodist congregation because the vaster Methodists, USA, whatever, they said something. I think they were endorsing homosexuality or something like that. Like, you cannot be a true church and endorse homosexuality.
Yeah, because the
there are
Bible
certain
is
things.
very, very clear on
There are a lot of things that Christians can
homosexuality
disagree
being
on.
a sin.
Yes.
Yeah.
I could disagree with all of you on what kind of, movies you should watch, what you should do on
what time,
this day.
how you should be baptized.
Yeah,
Paul
you can agree on
said-
a lot of things. You can't disagree on homosexuality.
Yeah,
No,
and you
yes.
know how Paul had the dream about that Jews can now eat these forbidden foods,
I
right?
think it was Peter, but
Was it Peter?
yeah, it was probably Peter. 'Cause
Peter
was,
or Paul?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
One of the major disciples. They so that dream was saying, right, you can eat this now. Like, I've made it pure.
Mm-hmm.
But that does not mean God doesn't call you to do something different.
Yeah.
Like, you're convicted, that doesn't mean you're not convicted to do something different. So if God's saying, don't eat pork, but your neighbor eats pork, that's for you. That's
don't
so
have to
you
drag
can
down your
follow
neighbor.
God.
Yeah.
That's for you to follow God to a better level. Like, don't drink alcohol. Okay, my neighbor drinks alcohol. Okay, but alcohol isn't a stumbling block for him and will be a stumbling block for you.
Mhm.
yeah.
So God calls
Exactly,
us to
yeah.
different levels, but
Because
the
it
new
says in the
covenant,
Bible, he will not tempt us beyond
Yes.
we are able.
Yeah.
but the new covenant does not do away with the homosexual sin.
It does not. Yeah.
It does not.
No disciple got a dream of two men kissing, and
Yes.
God was like, "Yeah, well, this is okay now."
Yes.
No.
No.
Yeah, no.
It says in 1 Corinthians 6:9 that homosexuals will not enter the kingdom of heaven.
Right,
Yes.
right. And the whole reason why the left has to deny that, any fake church that says that homosexuality is okay, the whole reason why they have to deny that the Bible ever said anything about homosexuality is because the Bible is actually very strong on homosexuality.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And as soon as you listen to any of it, you realize, oh, I'm a false
Exactly, yeah.
teacher.
Yes.
I can't teach
It calls
this
it
and
an
be a Christian.
abomination.
Yes.
An
Yeah.
That's a very strong
It's
word to
a
use to describe something.
disgusting, nasty thing.
Exactly. Yeah. And when the Bible uses strong language, you know
Yes.
it's serious.
And it's not that you can't be forgiven, and it's not that
Yeah.
God doesn't love you.
Yeah.
it's that
we're not saying that like if you're gay, you're just doomed to hell.
Yes,
Like you can't
no.
come back from it. You can. It's just if you keep up this lifestyle,
Yes.
you are gonna be doomed
and
to hell.
I think that's one thing that actually a coworker of mine, he was saying that he didn't follow Christianity anymore because his parents told him he had to hate gays. And I was like, no.
No.
That's religion over relationship. Jesus was not about the laws. If he wanted the laws to stay in place, he would have never come. Like, he would have never come
Yeah.
to restore a relationship, to have us forgiven of our sins so that we could be with the
Mhm.
Father. He came for relationship to restore the Father's heart, to restore our one-on-one connection with God.
And it's the same thing like Knowles was saying. Like, he was advocating for the abolition of transgenderism, not trans.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have to hate gay people.
He
You have to
Yes.
hate the sin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like Michael Knowles, like he can be a bit sarcastic and goofy sometimes, but he does not hate transgender
No.
people.
Right.
He
No.
does not hate people who like got surgery and stuff.
Yes.
He just hates the lifestyle they're living and the idea that a man can become a woman and a woman can become a man.
Yes.
And rightfully so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rightfully so.
Best life they can have.
Yes.
And
And
he did say something about how conservatives have gone more and more neutral over the years, right?
yeah.
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 Like,
Oh, that's
well,
something. That's
We'll
something
fight
big.
for now, but eventually we know we're going to lose the
Yeah.
battle.
Yeah,
so what?
he
Something-
said the conservatives were like, who cares?
Yeah, something I like about Michael Knowles is he calls out the conservatives when they're being stupid.
Right.
Yeah.
And he reminds us that we can still fight in wars that we already thought we lost.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, yeah, and he said,
Like a good example, Roe versus Wade being overturned. Like we thought we lost that battle decades ago, but no, we overturned that.
The decision.
The decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, we overturned the decision, even though it doesn't abolish abortion everywhere.
it makes it a state's right,
Yeah.
which is a victory.
Exactly.
For sure,
A
yeah.
victory for us.
And
we won a battle.
That's what he said, is that the left thought they'd been victorious because they had victory after victory after victory over like decades and decades and decades. And then when he said this thing about eradicating transgenderism, that's why they blew up about it.
Yeah.
Because they were like, oh no, we're losing our ground, right? And so the conservatives are just like, he said, they throw up their hands in the face of gender ideology.
Yeah.
Like, who cares if about pronouns and sports,
Right.
etc.
Well, fair enough. On an individual level, I don't care if some wacko down the street wants to be called they them. But as soon as you make it into a societal issue where you're letting biological men compete in women's sports and stuff like that,
and then
you cannot
also,
back down there.
And
you can't
also,
say whatever
also
because
another
it's clearly
example,
a problem.
some cases being forced to use those pronouns.
Exactly.
Like by law.
Or getting fired for not adhering to what the left says in every single way.
Exactly.
Yeah. And there is freedom of speech and all of that. So, like, transgender people can choose to do what they're doing.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean we need to make it legal. And that doesn't mean we need to support it necessarily. We can love them as a human being because they were created by God. But that doesn't mean we need to support them every step of the way. Like, I might not support you in some endeavor you're doing, Isaac, but I still love you as a human being.
Well, we're all sinful, so we all have our own endeavors that are flawed.
Right. Yes. And
and if we, another point is, if we like heavily judged each other for every flaw we had, we would never get along.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like if we let our flaws, if we let another person's flaws define them, like I would never be friends with any of you. I'd be a loner.
Yeah.
And that would also be super hypocritical of me because I also have flaws of my own.
Right.
And if other people defined me by my flaws, nobody would be friends with me either.
Yeah. Take the log out of your own eye.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, and it's true. Conservatives these days, we're not fighters. The left are fighters. And
the problem is we compromise too easily. And compromising doesn't work when the other side is not willing to compromise.
Yeah, and we like to think that, we're the party of small government, do what you want. Look, I like theoretically I like the idea of a libertarian nation. I like freedom. I like all that stuff. But in the end, you cannot violate basic biological laws with your nation's laws. That's just that's not going to end well.
Yeah. What were you saying, Simion?
I said what I said earlier, I think.
Well, repeat it.
Oh, well, I had one thing to say about fatherlessness.
All right, go.
Okay, yeah, please do.
So I heard this story recently in South Africa where there were a bunch of elephants in an area and people stopped hunting them, so their population grew too much. And so these the state or the country had to take over and bring some of the elephants away so that the population wasn't too big and so they didn't like ruin the land. And they took away a lot of the male adult elephants out of an area, and then there were just like the young kids and mothers, and they took away some mothers as well. But because there were only like young boys in an area, they didn't have any fathers, and because of that, they didn't know how to be an elephant, and so they went around killing other rhinoceroses and other animals for no reason.
Wow.
People realized this, and they brought fathers back, and then they were like, oh, well, now we have people to discipline us, or well, elephants to discipline the other elephants, and then they started acting like how they should act. So, yeah.
It just goes
that's
to
amazing.
show,
That's
as much
really
as the left
interesting.
hates it, you need the nuclear family.
See, God like shows in nature how things are supposed to be,
Yeah.
which is amazing to me.
Very consistent across all of creation.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
I love that
amazing.
example. That is so cool.
Yeah, we're going to have to own some lips with
Humans
it.
and animals are so alike.
Yeah. God definitely put the need for family throughout his whole creation, which is beautiful. Like,
Yeah, you look at any animal, in some way a male and a female animal are both needed
Right.
to
Right.
to have a successful like ecosystem and cycle of life.
Yeah.
Because like in that case, you took away the adult males.
Mhm.
That like ruined the ecosystem of Africa to an extent, or South Africa to an extent.
True.
Mm-hmm.
All right, folks. Well, we're at the hour mark, so thank you so much for listening to episode 4 of the W Ritz podcast. A very good episode, if I do say so myself. I personally think we had a lot of good discussion.
Honestly, I
Yes.
think that was the best one we
And
recorded so far.
I hope all of you listeners agree. I think it was the best one, Will, yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you so much to Abigail and Simion for coming on. It's been a blast, and we're definitely going to have you on again someday.
Yeah, thank you for having
Very
us. I'd love to.
All
yeah,
right,
I love
well,
having you guys.
we will see you in about a week and a half, at least Will and I will, for the next episode of the W Ritz podcast. We're looking forward to it, and we know you are too.